Hi, and welcome to the second part of our monthly challenge. So we've done week one, which was all about the diaphragm. So if you haven't seen those videos yet or taken part in those videos, then they're all on my YouTube channel for you to take a look at. And there is one thing that I would like to say in terms of the videos. It's really, really important that you actually join in because that's when you really start to feel the movement of the muscles that we're talking about. This is called embodiment, and that's really when you start to really connect with what's happening in your body. So if you're watching this video and you're sitting with a cup of coffee and not interacting, it's not going to be as effective, because actually we need to be doing this stuff to actually create improvements in the body. So yeah, there is a little bit of effort on your behalf in terms of taking part. So please do join me in the exercises when we get to them. So today we're going to look at the transverse abdominis. It's one of the other breathing muscles in the body, and it's an abdominal muscle. A lot of people have heard of this, particularly those of you that have been doing Pilates or any movement that is involving kind of core activation, might be how it's been explained to you. So the transverse abdominis is the muscle that is responsible for narrowing your waistline. So it's one that people are keen to kind of get to know how to work. And that's what we're going to look at today, and how just by the simple act of breathing, we can really train that transverse abdominis to make it efficient in its two main roles. Those two main roles, first one we've already mentioned, which is breathing, and the second one is for stability of the spine. So it's quite an important muscle, and I'm going to share my screen and show you an image of where it is in the body, and then we're going to look at how it moves and what we feel with that. So first of all, I will share my screen, and I'll take you hopefully to, oh, that's my timetable. Oh, we don't want that. We want this one. Okay, so this is the musculature in your trunk, or the abdominal musculature in your trunk. So there's lots of layers within the trunk, and the one that you're looking at now is your external obliques. You can see they run these, you see these lines, that's indicating the line of pull within the muscle. So they're running from your ribs downwards towards the center. Can you see this line here? The center of your trunk. And this line here is like a very fibrous connective tissue, and it's called the linea alba, and it's where all the abdominal muscles come to connect at the front. Now, if we take a look at the next layer, I'm going to move my little video. The next layer, which is, so this is your external oblique. Oh, come on, click on there. And then if we take that one away, the next layer here, this is your rectus abdominis. This is the very kind of well-known six-pack muscle. And can you see, if I take the blue off, can you see the lines of these fibers? The lines run from the top to the bottom. And this is all quite significant when we're looking at how we're going to train different layers of the abdominal muscle group. So there's your six-pack muscle. We'll take that one away. And then underneath there, can you see this one here? Those diagonal lines coming from the middle, higher, and then diagonally down to the outside of the pelvis. These are your internal obliques. We can take those away as well. And then we're left with this big kind of sheath of muscle here. So you can see the fibers or the lines are running from that central bit, the linea alba, and it runs out and around. If I move the diagram or the image, you'll see it wraps all the way around and into the back. Yeah, and this is connective tissue here. And this whole area at the back of the body is going to be covered with a connective tissue and a fascia. And so this abdominal muscle, the transverse abdominis, attaches to the fascia at the back of the body, where the spine is, and it wraps round to the front. So if I remove this half, you'll be able to see this one here, how it kind of sits right the way round. Yeah. And if I remove that one as well, you'll see, I'll move all of these external rectus abdominis. There's your internal obliques. And this is now your transverse abdominis, that corset, the one we're going to look at. If I take them away, can you see here we've got this lovely kind of three-dimensional image of our trunk. So this is the linea alba, the one I was talking about earlier, and it's a connective tissue, it's not bone. So it has the ability to move, and that's for obvious reasons, for when obviously we carry children and the abdomen comes forward, we need to have something that is going to be able to stretch and adapt to the changing size of the abdomen. Now, if you look there at the back, you've got your spine, yeah, and then the rib cage is above, and we've already kind of established that here is where your diaphragm is. It sits in that cage there, and then we have the heart and the lungs sitting above the diaphragm. I'm going to stop sharing now, just so you've got that image, and come back to me. So we know that this whole area here is the diaphragm at the top. And does anybody know what is underneath the diaphragm? So we obviously have lots of internal organs. I've got this really cool little model that is really great when I'm in person training. I don't know how effective it's going to be online, but you can see these are little internal organs in our trunk. So you can see in the cage, we've got those two little blue bits at the bottom of the lungs and the heart. This here, this brown bit, is your liver, and then you've got your stomach, your large intestines, and your small intestines. And can you see around the back there, you've got your two kidneys just sitting at the back. Now, you can see, my point of showing you this is that it's full. Yeah, our kind of thorax or trunk is full with all these wonderful organs that function to do all the important jobs that we need to digest our food, keep good circulation, keep toxins out of the body, etc., etc. So what I would like you to appreciate is, when we looked at that model earlier in the video or in the picture, that when the diaphragm, so let me just take this and this. So this is my diaphragm, and these are all my, my liver, my stomach, my internal organs. And when I breathe in, my diaphragm needs to come down. So all of the internal organs below the diaphragm need to move. So when we breathe in, the diaphragm lowers, all those internal organs move downwards. And without kind of jumping ahead, but basically the pelvic floor, which is the sling underneath, at the bottom of the trunk, underneath the pelvis, the pelvic floor, when we breathe in, that also has to lower. Okay, but it can only go so far. And so what else can happen to these internal organs if I inhale my diaphragm to fully lower? Okay, something has to change. So my internal organs have to go somewhere. They can't go back, because if they go back, they just hit against my spine. They can't go down too far because we have the pelvis. Yes, the pelvic floor can give a little bit, but it certainly will need to. The only other place that those internal organs can go when we inhale is to come forward. So that linea alba, that more sort of connective tissue that runs that white line from the top to the bottom, that also is able to adapt to the abdomen, contents of the abdomen coming forwards when we inhale to allow the diaphragm to come down. So they move out of the way of the diaphragm, so the diaphragm can come down and draw the air into the lungs. Okay, so that's basically what happens when we inhale. And so when we inhale and the abdomen comes forward, how does all that just not kind of just, you know, it needs something to support it, and that's your transverse abdominis. That's your corset muscle. So if this was my corset muscle and it's wrapped around me, and these are my organs, when I breathe in and my diaphragm goes down, to get out these, my internal organs go forwards. And so my muscle, my transverse abdominal, is stretching, but it's actually offering lots of support for my internal organs. As I push out, that's my in-breath, and out breath, as my diaphragm goes up, my abdomen contents comes back in. And when I inhale, they move out and they move in. So this happens, and every time that's happening, we're getting a stretch and a contraction of your transverse abdominis. And we know to strengthen a muscle, it has to be leg stretched and it has to be contracted. If it's just held in one state, it's called tension. Okay, so if we hold it really tight, okay, and it doesn't allow, we don't allow it to stretch, okay, the muscle doesn't necessarily, it's not performing its function as a part of our breathing because it needs to stretch to allow the abdomen to come forward. But we're not going to change the strength of it. We're not going to change the efficiency of it if we're just holding it. So tension is one thing that happens. So if you've ever been in a situation where you've been given the cue, engage your core, and one of the most common responses to that request would be to tighten up your tummy. Okay, so when you tighten up those muscles, we're going, oh, and everything's tightened. Then how do you think we are then going to breathe and allow the lengthening and the shortening of that deep transverse abdominis? It's going to be very difficult for us to do that when we are bracing, gripping our abdominal muscles. So if we're bracing and gripping our abdominal muscles, we're not allowing the abdomen to come forward, the diaphragm's not able to contract and go down. So it has a knock-on effect there. And we've already established that if we're not breathing deeply, we're more likely to hold tension in the body. And we're going to give signal to the horses and people around us that we're much more in a much more stressed kind of state being, because when we're breathing shallowly and faster, this is how the how we come across. I can't remember the word, I'm there, brain freeze. So that's how we come across. When we're deep breathing and slower breaths, it's much calmer, much more kind of relaxed. And that's really the ideal scenario for us to be in more of the time. So we're going to breathe into our abdomen. And to do that, we can start just by placing our hands onto the tummy. And when you breathe in, allow your abdomen to rise. And when you breathe out, you can imagine drawing in and the waistline narrowing, all the breath out. We breathe in. We let that muscle stretch to facilitate the action of breathing. We breathe out, breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. So just see if you can get that kind of action and allowing the breath to come deep into the body. So this is like abdominal breathing that we hear so much about on sort of meditation and breathing exercises that you may have done in the past. And that's kind of like why that's important. But where actually is the muscle? So I've shown you the video, I've shown you a picture of it. And our muscles are more of the red part that you could see on that image. If you watching this recorded, you could always look back at that. But there's the red part, that's the actual muscle. So what I'd like you to do is just pop your fingers into the side of your waistline and cough. And can you feel something changing underneath your hands? Yeah, you can probably feel the more tension, more tone come into the muscle here, because this is where the actual muscle sits. So you have your right transverse abdominis and your left transverse abdominis, and then they come round into more of a tendon that attaches to that white line. So this was my white, that's my linea alba. This muscle comes round, is here, and then the tendon comes round and attaches to this. So when this muscle shortens, it pulls and narrows my waistline. And when I breathe in, my waistline thickens. So you've got one on each side of your waistline. And when the muscle contracts, we saw where the muscle fiber is the direction. So when the muscle fiber contracts, it pulls and narrows the waist. And when we inhale, it stretches and the waistline expands. So you can have that image in your mind. So thinking of the muscle at the side of your waistline, you can touch it. Taking a breath into the body and feel your waistline get thicker. And then when you breathe out, you feel your waistline narrowing. So when we breathe in, the abdomen rises, inflates, almost like we're filling up a balloon. And then emptying. Waistline narrows. Just focusing on that for me for a few more breaths. So again, one hand on the tummy, just to give you some feedback. Breathe into the tummy, feel the abdomen rise. Breathing out. Get all of the breath out and feel how that waistline starts to narrow. Breathing in and allow it to stretch. Breathing out. And your waistline narrows. Breathing in. The waistline thickens, the abdomen stretches, the transverse abdominal stretches to facilitate the movement of your internal organs. And as you breathe out, contracts to help draw everything back in and lift the diaphragm, the air comes out. Again, inhale. Fill up the balloon in your tummy, pushing out against that transverse abdominis, all the way around you, not just to the front, to the sides, to the back. Pushing out like you're blowing up a balloon, and the out breath. Think of it contracting. As it's contracting, it's shortening, it's contracting, and bringing your waistline in, narrowing the waist, and lift the diaphragms, lifting and pushing the air. Breathing in. And breathing out. Let's move into some breathing control. So we're going to take a breath in for 4. Hold for 4. Breathe out for 4. And hold for 4. Breathe in for 4. Breathe out for 4. Hold. Breathing in. And hold. Breathing out. And hold. Breathing in. And hold. And breathing out. And hold. And then breathe your natural breath. Allowing the transverse abdominis to continuously contract on the out and lengthen on the in. And that function is important for us to check in with more regularly in our daily lives. We know that when we're more likely to be stressed, busy, preoccupied, distracted, when we're doing stuff that is more complicated, or if we're in an exercise class, when things get more challenging from an intensity point of view, one of the things that is first forgotten, I think is one of a better word, the thing that we don't do is we stop breathing. We kind of freeze and the breathing stops. So what my challenge is for you is to see if you can just check in with yourself when you're doing anything that is a challenge. And that, to start with, is just going for a walk. You know, go for a walk. Can you actually breathe into your tummy when you're walking? Can you breathe into your tummy? Now, how much that abdominal is moving back and forward will depend on the activity you're doing, because as I've said before, these muscles are also stabilizing muscles. So when the demand for stability increases, their tone will naturally, without you having to brace or engage or any of that, just carry on breathing. But know that when the demand for stability has increased, if we allow it, we don't interfere, we will get more tone in those muscles that are required to keep us stable. Okay, it will just happen as a response to the demand. So all we need to think about is not gripping. We need to breathe, maintain good alignment, and stay relaxed. All of those things are very much harder to do than it sounds. And the only way we can get better is through practice. So if you're looking to improve how you ride, this stuff has to be practiced off the horse, because when you're on the horse, there's a whole other dimension to how we control our own bodies and our own breathing. We have, another body, another brain, everything, to consider. And so if you can't do it off the horse in your daily activities, it's going to be something that is really, you're going to struggle with whilst you're on the horse. But if you've got that tool that you practice off the horse when you get on, in situations when you need to release, you need to relax, you need to become more stable, your breathing is how you can control that. It also affects, obviously, what's happening in the pelvic floor. And what is the pelvic floor? It's that communication point between you and your horse. So all of this comes down to the communication that we have with the horse in terms of my riders. If you're moving a lot more in your daily lives and you're maybe participating in Pilates or yoga, then breathing is going to make that movement much more satisfying. You're going to help to unravel the tensions that you're holding in your body, which will by default then allow your joints to move more freely. So please have a go. Any questions, let me know. You're just going to breathe into your tummy in your daily lives. Notice when you're not breathing and change it. Yep, take another opportunity to get some abdominal strengthening and get some tone in those muscles that narrow the waistline. Hope you've enjoyed it. Well done, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.